Welcome back to our channel. In this week's video, you're going to see us change out this countertop. And the reason why we're changing it out is not for the countertop. There's nothing wrong with that, but the sink. Instead of that undermount stainless steel sink, they wanted a farmhouse style sink, which means the whole counter has to go. We're going to have to change those face frames on the front of the cabinet, change the cabinet doors, put a new faucet in. Now we've unhooked all the plumbing, and now we're just removing that counter from those cabinets. Now because it's a solid surface, it's only held down with silicone. About every 6-8 inches or so, you put a dab of silicone, and that's what keeps those things down. So once we break it all free, we're able to just lift it off the top of that cabinet. And then we can remove that face frame. Here with the new countertop laying set up in the shop and some sawhorses, we lay out where that sink's going to go, and then we take a hole saw and we drill in those inside corners so they're not sharp inside corners. And that will alleviate any possibility of stress fractures. Then we just take our skill saw. We have a really sharp 60-tooth carbide tip blade in this skill saw, and it cuts right through that solid surface stuff, no problem. Now, I had never worked with this solid surface before, but my dad is a Corian fabricator and installer, something that he used to do a long time ago. So I was fortunate enough that I had his wealth of information and knowledge that I could call upon and ask what I needed to do and get the tips and tricks to make this happen. You can see here we're just using our electric file with the flap disc and just cleaning off any of those saw marks that might be in there. We just want a really nice smooth surface, and again, that's to alleviate any possibility of cracking. So we're just supporting this thing because this countertop's pretty long and it's actually really flimsy, especially when we cut this sink out of it. So we're supporting it with some 1x3s underneath those spring frames so we can carry it, move it, and carry it into the house. Now we removed the old furring strips that were on there. They just had some OSB, and we're replacing it with this pine. And we're not gluing them down to the cabinets because we want the countertop to be independent of the cabinets. It kind of just needs to sit on there and float. Now that everything's prepped, we can lift that counter up onto the cabinets and get it set in place. So now we're using silicone because it'll stay somewhat flexible. And this is how we're going to adhere this countertop down to those furring strips. Now we don't put it a lot, it's just a dab or so every 6-8 inches, and that's really all this thing needs. After we check and make sure the sink's going to fit, we lay out where this faucet's going to go, and we made that little template, that little jig there, and that's going to keep that hole saw nice and straight and give us a nice clean cut for that faucet. Then we'll remove the tape and get ready to set this sink. Then we run some silicone around that edge, and that's what we're going to set this sink down into. And when you set that sink and the silicone mushes out from the corners, just let it dry because it'll be easier to remove it after it's dried. If you try to remove it now, it's just going to smudge. Now we got to rebuild that face frame, and once that face frame's rebuilt, we'll rebuild the doors. So we cut it down to size, and now I'm using our old Davison Wells horizontal boring machine. This is going to bore the holes for the wood dowels. Now this is how we made our cabinets for the last, I don't know, probably 60 years, was with these dowels. We never used those pocket holes or screws or anything like that. And it worked out really good, still works out really good. That old machine is a workhorse. You see that goes there, it goes together there real nice. Now that we know what size the new doors need to be, we can take apart the old doors, and we're going to use the frame. We're basically just going to cut these down. And in order to do that, we have to take them apart first, take that inside panel out. That is going to need to be trimmed down as well. So this mortise and tenon construction, they glue the corners, but they also used a couple brad nails in those corners on the back. So you saw I just took a punch and just pushed those brad nails through, and then I was able to knock it apart with the hammer. Now we just cut that down, cut down that inside panel, and put it all back together. Once I dry fit it, take it apart, add some glue, put it together, clamp it, and then do the other one. So here I have set up in the drill press a Forstner bit to drill those holes for the hinges. Now I'm putting the face frame back into the cabinet. Now I'm using the pocket holes in the screws to attach the face frame at the top and in the center. I have to drill new holes for the top. At the center I'm just reusing the holes that were there from when they built the cabinets. And then once the face frame's back in, I can rehang both those doors. Now I never did take the bracket off that face frame on the bottom, so I just rehang the door off that bottom one, and then once that's done, I attach the top bracket to the top hinge, and that sets the location for the top hinge. Super simple. A quick adjustment of that cabinet, and that one's done. Now I just do the same thing to the other side. And there it is. Thanks for watching.